Okay, we're away. So this is number 23 on the Let's Talk Business Coaching, and a bit of a smaller group this week, only because some people can't make it, and rightly so. It's absolutely fine. What I thought I'd talk about, and the idea came to this one from a client or new client that started yesterday, and she said to me, "How do I know if we're doing okay? How do I know if the business is doing okay for making progress?" And what she'd done before, which she was just thinking about how she felt about things. Was the bank account okay? The cash in the bank, and that was about it, really. I said, what we need to have is some measures, some numbers and ratios and stuff like that. And she immediately, when I said that, she started to just yawn and glaze over. It was like that, not interested at all. So we've got to be quite sensitive around that. But it's just an interesting one that we've got to have, from a coaching perspective, some sort of numbers to monitor progress and performance and efficiency and productivity, and just maybe have a discussion around what things you're finding that are working, that you use on a regular use on a regular basis. So Juliet's just dialing in, and to see what tools you're using. So I'll just let Juliet briefly introduce herself as well, if that's okay. So a bit new to the gang, from sunny California, and because it's morning over there, not afternoon. So Juliet, hi, welcome. Okay. So,
hi, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, good to see you again. Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Hello, all my European friends. Hello, Claudia. Hello, Phil.
Hello, Juliet.
So this is a regular thing. I'm not sure everybody knows you, Juliet. Give a quick 30 seconds. Who's Juliet? Give a quick intro quickly so everyone knows who you are.
All right. My name is Juliet Donahue. I am a business coach and personal coach who has been working. I met Dutch back in one of our previous lives.
Yeah, a long time ago now, isn't it? Long time ago.
And I'm based out in California.
Excellent.
There you go.
Fabulous. And what time is it over there, just so we know?
It is 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Fantastic. And it's sort of 6 o'clock here, so good time zone. So anyway, welcome. Good to see you. So we're talking about, from a coaching perspective, what numbers, ratios, figures, what do we use in terms of getting progress for people. What I found is it just for me, just kick it off. There's two sides to it. I think there's outcomes, sales, ratios, bank and cash and that sort of thing. There's also inputs in terms of activities, calls, appointments, meetings, productivity and efficiency. There's inputs and outputs. We've got to measure both. And I think the beauty of having input measurements is it gives us a predictor of what the outputs will be, whereas outputs are they're last week's figures. So I tend to focus on inputs, not just outputs. But what's your experience? What do you think? What do you use? What do you experience? What do you use with your clients or in your own business as well? Yeah, Claudia, hi.
So that's all nice and good. David, you are a business coach. So in certain essences, the business is also your client.
Sure.
Right. I would like us nevertheless to also look a little bit in terms of KPIs, indicators, essentially for the person, essentially well-being that are very subjective, of course, right? Energy level, well-being, general satisfaction and so on. That's very important as well. And of course, as you always do every week, it's like, yes, we obviously have these indicators in terms of our clients, but we also have them in terms of ourselves. Yeah. So actually, I would love to pick all your brains in terms of coaches and consultants. How do you go about measuring your own KPIs? I would, for my own edification, I would like to learn more about that. So thanks.
That's a great point. And you're absolutely right, because obviously whatever we do with business or otherwise, it's always a person at the center of it. So it's a great point. What should we kick off with that? Just as an interesting start point about what do we do ourselves in terms of our results, well-being, health, and outputs. How do we measure it? So, Kev, I'll pick on you because you're my top right on my
screen. So about me internally now, how do I measure that?
Yeah. What do you do?
Scaling question is probably the one I would use. On a scale of 1 to 10, how am I feeling about this, that, or the other? On a scale of 1 to 10, how tired do I feel?
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm 10 out of 10. Didn't sleep very well last night.
Early awake.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm telling one that I've just started using recently is on a scale of 1 to 10. How's my energy at the moment?
Mhm.
And I can sort of, like, I'm tracking my energy during the course of the day, and then I can sort of track back what was I doing just before that. So what I've noticed is that when I have a sandwich, some wheat, then my energy definitely drops. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. You go into sleep mode, do you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have any? I think the scale of 1 to 10 is an interesting one. But what I find with the 1 to 10 scales is they can be a bit subjective. Just for me, how do I know what's the difference between 8 and 10? I'm not really quite sure what it is. Do you have any sort of scale, or how do you judge it for yourself?
No, I think it's just, well, I know how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be subjective, isn't it? I suppose how you actually feel. I mean, so no, I don't know a better way.
I know one of the things that I do, a similar sort of thing, is I used to write a journal, but I do a sort of mental journal to sum up the day. What's worked, what hasn't worked, what's my level of energy or gratitude or whatever it is, and I check that as a balance. One of the key things for me that I've learned is 2 things. One is, it sounds pretty, what's my alcohol intake? Because I'm not drinking heavily, but if I can have a glass of wine, I'm sort of okay. But I don't drink during the week. I very rarely drink during the week now, from a Sunday night through to a Thursday night, because those are school nights. And I don't go mad at weekends. But I do find if I do have a drink or 2, I tend not to be as obviously alert and awake in the morning. So I watch my alcohol intake. But then the key measure for me is sleep. I've got to have at least 7 hours solid quality sleep. And I do sort of measure that to a degree, because if I get 7 hours sleep, I find I'm much higher energy and more focused, more able to deal with things. So those are the 2 that I would do. So
what I encourage my clients to do is look at life in 3 areas: health, wealth, and relationships.
Yeah.
So wealth is all about the job. Relationships about the people, immediate themselves for a start. Is first relationship that's going to be good. Then the significant other, children, things like that, and then the wider world.
Yeah.
But I ask them to create for themselves, what's the one thing you've got to do on a day-to-day basis that if you're not that one out, then you've had a good day in terms of a habit. So what's the keystone habit that underpins all those? And you just mentioned sleep is a keystone habit for you, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think it's the diet and the fitness and this sort of thing. And we've been lucky to a degree, because doing the house, we've done a lot of the lifting and shifting and that sort of thing. So that side of it's picking up okay. But sleep is a really key one for me. But Phil, any tips? What do you do to keep yourselves looking so gorgeous and on top form all the time?
I go for a walk every day.
There you go. But you didn't on Sunday, did you? You see?
Did, but not an organised walk.
Right, there you go. Excellent.
And it was just up in the woods.
Yep.
And there was some interesting stuff which is not repeatable. But the generally going for a walk, I discovered after I started this lark that you're actually supposed to go for a walk for your health. If you've got an office job and you don't travel too far and you don't walk too much, it's a good idea to get up early and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Because it resets your body clock.
That's it.
And because you're supposed to be up and about and running around in the woods. That's where we come from. And so people think, oh, you get back from a walk, you'll be tired, you'll be worn out. A quick glass of water and you're refreshed. Your brain, if you've been walking and not thinking, which is usually what I do, your brain has reset itself as well, and got you going for the next phase of the day. And in fact, I wasn't able to go for a walk until late this afternoon, so I'm just back from my walk. So I'm ready, raring to go. And funny old thing, dinner's going to be ready soon.
Excellent. But so do you have a sort of fixed route or number of steps or anything like that?
No, that's boring.
Because these Fitbit smartphone things, smart watches, I've got one and they can be really helpful. I hate the blooming thing. They do give you a benchmark of its activity and levels.
Yeah, if you tie it to the dog and let the dog run around the garden, you can have a great day.
Actually, what I liked about the Fitbit, and it's a point I wanted to also make here, it's great to go for a long walk, but it's also very important, I think, to move around throughout the day. And the Fitbit has this really nice thing where, like, you can set it, for instance, every hour. At the 10 to the hour or something like that, it would give you a short alarm and kind of motivate you to get up and do like 250 steps, nothing major. You have that done in like a couple minutes. But for those of us who can get really into one work and get so lost in thought, and then all of a sudden 3 hours have passed and you haven't moved, it's very nice to have this kind of schedule to take a break. Because I teach my students, I also tutor on occasion, and I teach my students the importance of taking breaks and staying hydrated and all that kind of stuff. But we have to not only talk the talk, we also have to walk the walk.
Absolutely.
But no, I don't have a set route, because, as I said, that's boring. There are regular routes that we do, mainly because if we're lazy, we don't travel anywhere. But everywhere from where we live is uphill. So it doesn't matter which direction you go in, you have to go uphill to start with. The good news is it's downhill at the end.
I say coming back's a pleasure, isn't it? Yeah, that's
coming back's a pleasure. You're like, I'll do that again.
It's perfect cycling country, uphill first and downhill coming back.
Yeah, but there are loads. There's an entire very thick book that the Luxembourg, one of the organizations, issue every year. It's a book of walks.
Okay.
Everything from the casual walk to the serious power walker. And they do another one for cycle routes as well, for road cycling and for off road.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm really glad you mentioned the walking, because I just shifted my schedule, and it's only been about 2 or 3 weeks where my morning schedule is much more early now. It's 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I have back-to-back calls every day, 6 to 9, and from 9 to 10:30, I've set aside for a good solid hour walk, or if I decide to do something a little more strenuous, which hasn't happened yet, to be honest. But it gives me an hour and a half kind of like in that thing, and I'm still in the morning hours to come back to the office and be available starting at 10:30 in the morning, which most people are then free for meetings. It also means that I'm free to join your calls, Dutch.
Of course. There's no escape.
But I really feel like, and it also, for me, I'm one of those people who's very sunshine oriented. Not surprising, from California. And I always find it really hard going into winter. I always find my stuff tapering down. And this year I really wanted to fend against that. I wanted to do something where my exercise time frame, where I'm really out doing something, is like in the sunshine, and that it come March, it's still in the sunshine, like all the time in between. So I really appreciate that.
Our problem here is that in winter it tends to be dark at 8:30 in the morning, and it gets dark at around about between 4 and 4:30 in the afternoon. So it kind of unless you go with a head torch, you really need to get out walking around about lunchtime.
For people that have trouble with seasonal affective disorder, just because you do not get enough sunlight, I can recommend these they make these really strong lights that you sit in front for 20 minutes, half an hour before, immediately when you get up, and it can keep your circadian rhythm really regulated, and it gives you this boost, because otherwise your body really doesn't know ever if it's day or night.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And the further north we go in the northern hemisphere, the worse it gets. I mean, Finland and Scandinavia, my goodness, it never gets daylight.
It gets 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. But I think this, just going back, you mentioned the circadian rhythms. I think this is something that affects all of us. And it's how do we manage that? For me, I know it's going to be particular time of sleep. It's no good me going to sleep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm a nightmare. I need to go to bed around about 10:30, and I can be up then at sort of 6 in the morning, which is fine. That's it. That's my sweet spot. And something I did a bit of research on donkeys years ago, but that's when I can get my quality of sleep. And I think this REM sleep pattern that you can measure. You can measure your sleep patterns with the Fitbits and pulse rates, this sort of thing. If we're not getting quality of sleep, it's an interesting sort of KPI to a certain extent. Not just how much sleep you're getting, what's the quality of sleep and what's affecting it. And things like caffeine, alcohol, carbohydrates have an effect on our digestion systems, obviously, and how we get sleep. So I've got a for me, I watch that, I monitor that. I'm not too strict, I'm not going crazy on it, but I know if I can get sleep, everything else works after that, and everything else is okay. So it's a real key one for me there.
Anybody read Why We Sleep by Matthew, I think it's Walker?
No, I haven't.
It's a good book, but it actually, that name might be wrong, by the way, Julia. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But it's why the book is definitely
I'll look it
Why
up.
We Sleep. Yeah, but that one of the real reasons why we need to sleep, is because our brain needs to store away everything that's happened the previous day.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get the quality of the sleep, then we don't get that stuff stored away. So our brain's not ready for the next day. So it's a really important function of our life, and it's wrong. There are people who say, "Oh, I only need 5 hours sleep a night." They're wrong.
Exactly.
There's very, very few people on this planet that can survive on 5 hours sleep a night. It's more of a macho thing, isn't it? Us guys can do it, but it's actually wrong. We need between 7 and 9 hours.
Yeah.
You had it right, Kevin. Matthew Walker.
Was it? Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Still got it. There you go.
I always compare us to the sloth, the three-toed sloth.
Speak for yourself.
The three-toed sloth can't really be bothered to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it lives such a long and happy life.
Yeah.
But whereas the human animal is restless, that's why we wake up. If we weren't so restless, we'd never wake up.
Yeah. But I think but this is from a people perspective, and I think in answer to sort of maybe the question from Claudia, I think sleep is one of them, and I'm just thinking of other things that we've got I've experienced and with clients as well. And one of the guys, he's diabetic, so he has to manage his blood sugar, and he has an app thing where it'll measure his blood sugar content during the day, and for him, he has to monitor his food intake and sugars and all this sort of thing, and if he can keep his blood sugar level between this sort of tolerance band, he's good. So for him, his key KPI is blood sugar content, and it's not something I can influence, but I think it depends on the individual. Exercise, health, well-being, pulse rate, resting pulse rate's another one that people can use as an indicator of performance and fitness. So all sorts of things I would have thought, but
medicine intake, right?
Yeah,
it's very important, and for me too, I need to completely always tailor my medication schedule to the demands of the day.
Sure.
And so these things essentially for everybody, you do you, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's this awareness, it's this just being mindful that we are not just, in our case, let's say, a coach during that hour that we coach. We are a coach. Like an athlete is an athlete 24 hours a day. He sleeps like an athlete, eats like an athlete, trains like an athlete. And for us, I think it's kind of the same thing. We have to bring this awareness to our own well-being, because we want to be in top form for our clients, and of course for our business, so that we can serve more clients.
I think keeping in sort of top condition or top state or peak state, I think is the key. And different people have different things that they do for that. But I mean, for me as well, one of the things I've seen for my sort of routines is there's certain people I avoid as well. There's certain situations I avoid. Not obviously not you guys, but if somebody's particularly challenging, toxic, negative, but I just avoid them because they're too much drama, too much heartache, and that affects, or I allow it to affect, my mood. So I'm got quite a clear filter of who I allow in and who I go and speak with and that sort of thing. But that's just a personal one, perhaps there, I think, still. Anything else? Anybody else do anything with clients maybe that you've seen that would that can work on a personal basis maybe?
As a coach, one of the things I run into, especially here in Silicon Valley, is a lot of people who have a lot of anxiety and stress.
Right.
And
Okay.
so one of the things that I've been working on, for me, anxiety and stress are just instead of sitting in the present moment, they're going to the past and projecting something over into the future. They're just not being present. So I have them do bullet points of like how they were present for the day, to keep encouraging them to stay in the now. They want to get on the phone and sometimes be like, well, I have all this to do. Let's prioritize the list. And they're like all future oriented. And I'm like, how about you get back to me in 2 hours and tell me the top 3 things you did in the present moment?
Okay, nice. So you bring them back
keep
to
them
the present.
back to the present. And I find that takes, if you give them the scale of 1 to 10 on the anxiety scale, it will reduce it by 2 or 3 points within a week or 2.
Really?
Like they'll actually start to self-correct a little bit because they'll kind of like come down from that jumping over the now.
Yes. Okay. Interesting.
So,
That's great. Great technique.
Yeah, just and if it means I have to call them or text them, the first week every day, just be like, what do you did you do something in the now? Don't project into the future, stay in the now.
Yeah.
Or, what is the now thing that came up for you today? Like you have to leave space for something in the now.
Sure. No, that's great.
And that works really well for them to re-regulate themselves. And then they'll measure it themselves because they did it themselves.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it becomes self-regulating after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
I don't know if anyone else has tried that.
No, it makes absolute sense. I think that I've got one client who fills in a timesheet, work time and family time, and they've got a maximum amount of work time they're allowed to do because they are sort of a self-confessed workaholic, and if they work more than, I think he's allowed himself 50 hours, which that's up there anyway. He's allowed himself 50 hours, and he can spread it where he wants to a degree, but he's got to have the rest of the time family, relaxation, hobbies, that sort of thing. And he actually turns his phone off as well, which is great. So sort of work time can be an interesting one as well to go for, as a sort of KPI, I think.
Another one might be the morning routine, and also important, the evening routine. Setting the schedule that every evening at 9:30 all the screens go off. Even though it might not actually be when you go to sleep immediately, but I'm sorry, that that you have this kind of, you set yourself up for a more restful sleep. And you can journal, let's even say you are allowed to read a book, an actual book, or let's say you can even watch TV if it's not too loud and you're not using the hyper vivid blue screen mode of it, if it's already kind of subdued, so those things as well, right? The frequencies, but these lifestyle routines and habits that we want to put into place, how much do we actually adhere to what we planned on doing or what we know we should be doing, and so on. So these trackers, habit trackers, where every day you just put a check mark to, let's say, the 3 or 5 that you focus on at the moment, is actually an interesting tool to use as well.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I've got 2 dogs now. Kev, you've got dogs as well. But if the dogs get into a routine, i.e., getting up, being fed, going out, they stick to it. They don't waver from it. They give them a routine. That's it. It's plugged in for life. Whereas for us, we tend to wander off and not stick to routine. So part of it is get a dog. If you want to get a routine about walking, getting out and about and feeding things, get a dog and get some chickens, because they shout at you if you don't let them out in the mornings. But yeah, so but the animals seem to have these routines built in, whereas we sort of don't really. We sort of wander off and do our own thing if we're not very careful.
Well, I usually, one of my routines at the minute is I've set my phone up for alarms. So I have an alarm that goes off first thing in the morning. And first thing in the morning is more about the morning routine. Which tends to get bugged up when you get early coaching sessions in the morning. But ideally at 6:01 my alarm goes off. Normally I'm up before then anyway, but 6:01, and the alarm that sounds, you can give your alarms names. So the alarm comes up. So in the morning, it's like Disney 3 runner. I've always fancied doing Disney 3, which is a 10K half marathon and a marathon over 3 days.
Okay.
So if I want to be that, I've got to. What does a Disney 3 runner do at 6:01 in the morning? They lie in bed, or they get up, get the backsides out of bed, and then at 8 o'clock, world-class business coach identity kicks in. An alarm comes up for that, and then at 5:30 BFF, best friends forever, which is what I want to be with my family. That's what the alarm that kicks in. But I've also got an alarm at 4 o'clock, which is shut down. Effectively, it's time to start shutting down work. So that's look what we've done in the day and what's my to-do list for tomorrow. And then I got another one, which I'm not quite sticking to at the minute, which is my bedtime alarm. It's not the time I go to bed, it's the time I switch the screens off.
Right,
So I'm getting ready for bed.
Yeah. No, excellent. Again, these are reminders and the bings and bells and whistles, that sort of thing. So nicely done. I mean, we're working with, just picking on the theme of individuals rather than businesses as well, because we are working with individuals. Are there any other numbers, not just health and well-being related, that you would look at for an individual as opposed to a business? I mean, I've got a couple of executive clients, for example, and we're not working on the business overall, they're executives. And one of the things we look at is they look at what is in their what's in their bank account. Is it increasing each month? Are they going to stop spending on this sort of thing? There's a financial, what's in the bank account. And then the other one they do for a different client is they have to have I think for this one, there's 2 meetings a month with people who are 2 steps above them in their organization, so building their visibility, reputation, and this sort of thing. So they've got to have these meetings. They've got some actions to do, which are KPIs. One is a financial one, and one is a sort of a development one, a meetings one as well. So I think we can give individuals some sort of KPIs as well. But that's a couple that spring to mind. But anybody else, any sort of thoughts around that at all?
I have one with some of my clients, not with all of them. The ones who say that they're constantly getting disturbed during the course of the day. Is a KPI in and around deep work, where they've basically locked themselves in a dark room, and the idea would be the more time they can spend in there, up to 90 minutes. Do it in 90-minute cycles, then the more productive they'll be for the day. And some of them are really struggling to get 15 and 20 minutes. And it's madness, really, when you consider the position they've got in these companies, that they can't get any time to themselves. So it's like some of them are getting up a little bit earlier so they can get into the routine of doing 90 minutes of deep work. It's not easy to do, actually. I've tried it myself. It's not that easy. That's great. I get with clients,
Did you find, I mean, I've got a couple of people as well who I encourage them to do the work, but not in their office, to be out and about, go to, a coffee shop or a hotel lobby or whatever it is, or a co-working space, and just not be available. And they go and break the change of environment as well, can be very good for them. So sort of make and break it. So, okay, great.
Death by meeting is common right now.
Which meeting, sorry?
Death by meeting.
Oh, death by meeting. Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's totally common right now. And a lot of people are switching. I don't know, here in the Valley, I can think of at least 4 people I know personally who are switching positions because it was becoming death by meeting.
Wow, really?
It was just like, one of them, she's a senior director. She literally had 3 hours for 4 weeks in a row on her calendar that was set aside for her own work. And she's like, I can't function.
No, you can't.
What I discovered from meetings in the corporate world is that they're a good excuse to do nothing. Because somebody says, right, we'll start the meeting at 10 o'clock, it'll last an hour. Okay, my input to the meeting might be a minute and a half, but I've got to sit there for the whole hour. And I remember when Blackberries first arrived.
Crikey, you are as old as you look.
And but they wouldn't give us Blackberries. It was the Blackberry distribution stopped one level above where I was. Right. So you got all these people who are senior to you in the meeting, all sitting there with their Blackberries, ignoring everything that's going on. And everyone at my level with nothing to do at this meeting because we don't have a Blackberry.
You know what that is? You know what they call that, don't you? Smartphone masturbation.
I can delete this from the video. It's okay.
What I started to do was to go into the meeting and be there when it started and say, right, I've only got a minute and a half of contribution to this meeting. Does anybody mind if I leave after I made my contribution? And sometimes they objected, no, we want you to stay for the whole meeting because it's really important that you hear some of the stuff that's going on. Other ones say, well, the sooner we get this meeting done, the better. Yeah,
get it out of the way. Exactly.
But
sorry, Claudia.
There's something to be said for standing meetings. Really,
Exactly,
you know, because it's kind of you know, there's at least that reminder not to get too comfortable and not letting it drag on forever and ever. And if you have a whiteboard next to you or flip chart, all the better, because then you can just jot and go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. No, I think it's great. I think standing meetings, and also meetings that aren't scheduled for an hour, you know, or
Yeah.
2 hours. It's always round hours these meetings are scheduled for. It's like make it about 18 minutes or something, you know, or 13 minutes, and that'll do it, I would have
The
thought.
discussion will always fill the time available for the meeting.
Exactly, that's right, exactly. The meeting's like
meeting's
eight
long.
minutes of meeting, the rest of it's junk.
I'm
It's-
finding all my meetings are getting shorter.
Yeah, good. Good.
Anyone else finding that post-pandemic meetings are getting shorter? They're more efficient?
I've got a client who has his team meeting. He has a huddle every morning.
Yeah.
They do in the plank position.
In the what position?
The plank position.
Yeah.
The plank.
He
Oh,
wants
is
to
it-
smell-
That'll get you through it quick.
God,
He doesn't
I'll
want any
sort it out.
small
Yeah.
talk. Yeah.
So how does that work? Are they just literally lying down on the floor or on a
So it's
table?
like, but you're up on your elbows and your toes, aren't you? So it's a cracking stomach exercise, apparently.
Yeah.
You know, for the core exercise, but you don't want to be there too long.
Because you face plant if you're there too long.
Crikey, that's a meeting you got to see on video.
That's
That'd be
Matthew.
great.
Matthew does that.
Fantastic. That's great. Love it. Yeah, good job. But I think for most people, time is the one thing that sort of infects everything, isn't it? There's obviously not enough of it in their minds, but actually there's loads of time. It's what we do that prioritize it. So, you know, KPIs around sleep and performance and efficiency seems to be a dominant factor for everybody. You know, it just seems to be that way. And I say something that I don't think any of us have particularly cracked it. I found having the default calendar, you know, we've moved our business now to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We've shifted it back into the week now, but Thursday and Fridays are reasonably clear, so I can fit bathroom doors and that sort of thing, as you know. But so we've got the 3 days are really intense. But if it wasn't that, if Lynn didn't manage it or get me managed, I'd fill, you know, 6 days a week with it. As Phil, as you were saying, the work would fill the available time. Whereas if it's what you can be much more efficient if actually somebody else is managing your time for you. I think it's where as coaches we can help our clients with that as well.
But I think it brings up an interesting KPI, David. This is again a subjective one, but how much can you stop working when you stop working?
Yes, right. Yes.
Right, because you know, like sometimes I do not get enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know that I'm just under the surface when I'm waking up, and I'm like praying that my brain doesn't kick in.
Yeah.
Right, because the moment that first thought hits, then it's over. You know, there's just no way I can go back to sleep. And also the same thing in the evenings. You know, the brain just keeps running and running. And even if you do write down the thoughts that pass and so on, and even if you try to meditate, and even if you do all these life hygiene, sleep hygiene kind of things, it's for me personally, at least, it's a very big challenge to shut off, to get the brain to shut off.
I think it is. I mean, for everybody, it absolutely is. I think what I found, this is just personal for me, what I found, I can either read a book that is nothing to do with business and whatever, but just totally different, and you know, whatever it is, or even if it's just watch a movie or something like that is totally removed, and that tends to spin different cogs. And when I try to get to sleep, then those are the cogs that are spinning, not the ones about the workshop or the seminar and that sort of thing. So a bit of distraction I find works for me, but it's an interesting one.
If you can get into it though, because sometimes you know, you have to show that you've been watching, and some days you can get really into it, and sometimes you cannot watch 2 minutes of it because you know you see these shapes moving on the screen, but your head is still you know, turning.
It's a tricky one because I think that the brain, and it's not my specialist subject, but the brain is certainly a complex machine, and you've got to sort of reprogram or deprogram or desensitize to certain things. And yeah, it's a tricky one. But I don't know, any tips on that? Phil, how do you unravel and unwind and get quality sleep? Anything? And it can't be alcohol, okay?
No. I guess I just zone out in front of the television most nights.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, most nights. Yeah. I mean, I know that tonight, for example, after this thing called the Bake Off, that my wife watches. There's a it's a game show, I think is the best way to describe it.
Not Squid Games.
I know
No.
the Bake Off.
No.
I watch it.
No, it's but the one that on after it, it's a game show where teams of two are trying to solve a murder, and it's
Okay.
called Murder Island,
Okay.
and it was written by Ian Rankin and another. So the storyline is all written by him and all the rest of it, and they've got to go through it. And I watched the first one kind of intently, and then realized that the contestants were going to make useless detectives, because they couldn't interview people.
Ah, okay.
One of the things the fella said at the beginning was ask open questions. And the first thing they do is they ask closed questions.
Excellent.
And, I mean, okay, it does take a bit of practice to learn how to ask open questions all the time, but to spend the entire session all asking closed questions, oh no, you useless people. And then
So you get into sort of detective mode then and go and solve the case. Or something.
And well, that's what was when I watched the second one. I thought the problem with this is I'm not in there playing the game.
Yeah.
Because I can see where they're going wrong. Yeah. And
but it's good distraction though, isn't it? It is that total distraction of sorting out problems or challenges and that sort of thing. And I'll have a go at Sudoku, whatever you say it. I'm an expert level of Sudoku now, and it's bizarre, but it's just total distraction. It's just nothing to do with any. You can't. I can't multitask. If I do a couple of games of Sudoku, my mind's all pickled anyway. Then I just fall asleep. I think so. Anything like that can help.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I found worked for me with regard to shutting off at night was actually looking at how I was set, more about what was setting myself up to do in the day.
Mm-hmm,
so sometimes I'm setting my diary up to fail, and that's what's on my mind.
Right.
I set myself up to fail in the first place. So progress equals happiness, so they say.
Yeah.
So the thing is to actually knock some things out of the park.
Yeah.
So I've progressed, and at the end of the day, I feel a lot calmer about it. Everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think if you, it's the idea of having the little report on your shoulder. If he was following you around for every minute of the day for 24 hours, how would you feel about the report he was going to write? He was going to show the world. Because the fact of the matter is, we got that little report. He's in our heads. He's our conscience. So yeah. So I don't give my conscience anything, or I attempt not to give my conscience anything. So give me a slap around the ear hole with it at night.
I have Lynn following me around as my conscience, so I've got a real one.
Yeah, so it's not always though that you haven't achieved enough or made enough progress, but you feel passionate about something. Yeah. That is more like when I'm in this idea mode or planning mode and future vision building mode and things like that, where it's tougher to show. I can put away work at any moment, and it's going to be okay. It's going to keep until tomorrow. It's more like the fun part, right?
Yeah. But even doing, I find it, like, for example, yesterday we did the that seminar yesterday, and thank you for those who were able to make it. And I get quite energized by that. I enjoy doing them. I mean, it's great. We had a good bunch of people, good conversation, and that's it's all very good. And you sort of finish that, and then do the download. But the adrenaline's still there, and I have to sort of come down off that, because it is a bit of a high. It's one of the highlights of, I think, of doing what I do, is the ability or the opportunity to go and do those sort of things. And that was difficult to come off that sort of high as well. So I have to be careful when we do these sort of things too. But okay, so any other thoughts and points on this fabulous subject? So yeah, Julia.
Yeah, Dutch is aware of this. I started a morning call that's 30-minute, but it can be 15 minutes because I'm going to start another 15-minute one for my business clients. Yeah, it's just it's a 30-minute, but it's a 15-minute like touch point, and it gets them centered. And it's more like a quiet, almost like a meditation call, but it gets them all centered. And then everyone who logs in, like there's 20 people now logging in, all start from the same point for their day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of nice because it gets everyone in the same point. The benefit for me of doing that, and something that I've been kind of toying with, is do I do it on the other end of the day too? Is that if we set up that space in the morning, then that space is always available. and they can touch it again at night before they go to bed.
Yeah.
But they already were in it once that day. So the thing being,
Right.
okay, then when right before, at your 10 o'clock point, touch into that space you were in the morning.
Yeah.
One last time before you log off, or as you go offline.
Sure.
And it means that the work is done once, but it's available
Yeah.
for them twice in the day if they wish.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Great.
So that's another.
What in anybody's experience, we looked at things that do work in terms of support and that sort of thing. What in our experience definitely doesn't work in terms of getting people into, what are the common mistakes that people make or habits that they have that definitely don't work and don't support this? I mean, alcohol's a key one. Not for me to be Alcoholics Anonymous here, but drinking alcohol in the evening and caffeine in the morning and that sort of thing, mixing up those sort of emotions and stresses, that definitely doesn't work. So there's like a fluid intake challenge there. So that can certainly be one that doesn't work for people. But anybody else, any sort of thoughts around what definitely doesn't work for people?
No break between client.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, great. Yeah, no break, just flat out all the day. Yeah,
Flat out all day. Yeah.
Yeah.
A toxic environment and toxic people.
Yeah, which I'm sure none of us have that, of course, but anyway, but it does happen for clients. It's a challenge when the toxic environment is in their home environment as well. That that happens sometimes. You see that with people. I'm watching a series on Netflix called, I think it's called The Maid. I don't know if you've come across it, The Maid. It's really good. It's about this, it's a bit too true to life, actually, I think, but it's very, very clever. But this, this young woman's life is being impacted by effectively toxic people. It's like, it's how she gets out of it and that sort of thing. Very, very well written, well acted. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Kev, anything, what do you find doesn't work for people in your experience?
Alcohol. Definitely. Yeah. I'm still 0 alcohol this year.
Excellent. That's why you're looking so gorgeous and perfect skin tone, you see, because that's what it is. Phil, anything for you that definitely not for you, but you observe that maybe definitely doesn't work for people?
Distractions. People who, it's not that they have distractions or distractions happen to them, they create them.
Yeah.
The work, what I call the work avoidance activities. And they say, oh no, I can't do my work at the moment because I have to do this.
Yeah.
And you have to say, well, no, that's irrelevant. Get on with this because that's what you need to do. And they say, no, I need to go to this. And it's any excuse at the drop of a hat to stop work and do something else. It's
almost like self-sabotage, isn't it? I guess is part of the habit or the pattern that people
active destructive procrastination. I mean, it really is that.
Well, that's actually, to me, that's an indicator of something a bit more deep-seated, which is they don't actually like what they're doing, because they're finding excuses not to do it. And if they're finding excuses not to do it, then perhaps they should be doing something else.
That's good.
I actually just thought of something that does work, Dutch.
Go on.
A daily dose of LSD.
Here we go.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
Not there. Go on. You better qualify the LSD comment.
Laughter, singing, and dancing.
There we go. Okay, that's good.
They're all about breath work, and dancing can be out for a run. She's just dancing across the planet.
Yeah, excellent. LSD. So it's laughter,
singing and dancing.
Singing and dancing. Okay. Well, okay, excellent. Well, laughter is one of those things I think that I know I attempt to build into my day, my work, and professionally, personally, otherwise, and have a bit of fun doing it, whether it's on like a seminar last night or even chatting with you guys this evening. I think it's good to be able to smile and keep a level of brevity there. So yeah, that's a great point. So just qualify the LSD, not the drug LSD, just in case Mark Zuckerberg is listening to us. If I get adverts topping up on my system now for LSD, I'm going to send them to you. Anyway, there we are.
You must have gotten some really interesting mailing lists there, David.
That's right. Yeah, it is strange though, and this has nothing to do with this conversation particularly. But we put the bathroom door, built the door, and hung it on the bathroom. It's a sliding door, so we need a handle for it now. So we were talking downstairs about we could get like a wrought iron, old style, heavy duty handle so it fits with the rest of the house. And we didn't Google it. We were just talking about it, and then on my feed pops up, blooming door handle, just like Flipping heck. So we've got a Siri
They're
downstairs.
listening. Yeah.
There's something going on, I don't know what it is, but I'm very careful what I say. So yeah, door handle, but now we'll have like LSD popping up as well. We'll see what happens.
Well, I've got one for you on that. That one, it's beginning of last year. Well, not the beginning of last year. I guess it was sort of April time, and I'll cut to the quick. My dad died, and he lived a long way away from us. And we were sitting down one evening, and my wife and I were discussing what I should do, help to clear the house. And I said, well, it'd be really handy if we had somebody who could clear the house for us. 20 minutes later, there's an advert came on TV for house clearing service in the area where my dad lived.
There's something there's something going on, isn't there? I don't know whatever it is, but there's something going on. It's ever so strange because this is nothing to do with Google or anything, but just as a quick aside, this is going back about 5-6 years ago now. We're over in the UK. We went to Blackpool, as you do when you're in the UK. So you got to Blackpool for a day or something like that, just a seaside resort, and went there. And for a bit of fun, Lynn said she'd have a palm read by sort of Gypsy Rose Lee, having no expectations of it being accurate or nothing at all. Anyway, we went there, and Lynn went in by herself, and she came out, and she said, well, this is ridiculous. She said, she's told me that my mom is going to be taken to hospital, but not to worry because it's going to be okay. It's nothing life-threatening. She's going to be fine, this sort of thing. And we'd only seen her the day before. We're at their house the day before, and she was fine. As we're walking down the promenade, literally must have been within 5 minutes, Lynn's mobile rang. It was Lynn's sister, and she said, Lynn, just to let you know, Mom's fine. She's in hospital, but she's been taken as a precaution. And it's like, oh God, I don't know how this works, I don't know what it is. And I don't know, whatever's going on. But there's something going on that we didn't understand. And we felt like going back to the Gypsy Rose Lee and how the heck did she know? But anyway, there's something going on there that's all good fun, Anyway, so any final points while we're all together as a gang? Anything else on the sort of personal KPIs? I think sleep, no alcohol, walking those are 3 key things by the sound of it. Anything, any other highlights, or is that about it for the for recommendations? And LSD, of course, and thank you from the Wirral over in the UK. Thank you for that.
I like doing the 3 pieces of gratitude because it tends to bring more of that into the space.
Great point. Yeah, forward, positive thinking, forward facing as well, isn't it? That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, excellent.
Thinking on that, Julian, it's something sometimes I found because I used to start logging gratitude, and my wife's name's Sue, and some night I get into bed and I think, oh, I haven't done my gratitudes. And there I am, I'm trying to think, I've got to think gratitude. And I'm trying to suck gratitude out of my head while she's snoring like an express train.
Gratitude, yeah. You've got to be grateful for that.
Yes, but thinking about your presence thing is sometimes to get people into the present, it's what do you appreciate? What do you appreciate about the moment? What do you appreciate about what's happening right in front of you now? And that actually then leads to a gratitude list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. Good point, Kevin. That's really good. Well said.
Yeah, because gratitude is just one aspect that can enhance our overall state of positivity. Right. I think that we do well if we catch ourselves, if we're starting to drift back into problem space too much, if we get stuck in this whirlpool of negativity, and to just refocus. And gratitude is a wonderful way of getting back into the now, but also into this more positive and also more solution-based mental state. Absolutely. So
I think coalescence more the energy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's good. That's great. What a great way to. Okay, great way to sort of maybe wrap up the conversation. So interesting stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody, thank you.
It doesn't mean that we should. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't at some point actually look at business KPIs as well.
Should we do that next week?
We might at least touch on it.
Business KPIs. We'll do business KPIs next week. How about that? We can talk about numbers and balance sheets and stuff like that. All the exciting stuff. Okay. I'll tuck it away for next week. All right, everybody, thank you. Great to see you. Have a fabulous day over in California. Lovely evening over here. See you next week. Speech went on. Have fun. See you real soon. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Sorry, Claudia.
No.